Hello students, Professor Benavides here. Let's go over chapter 16, backups and file history. Actually, it covers a little bit more than that, but let's get knee deep. A little notice at the top, whenever you see green text, that means that that topic's related to your lab assignment. At the very top, I hit you with a video from YouTube, excellent video. Back up your stuff with Windows 10. I hope you watch it. So, how many people are doing backups? Author says about maybe 4%. So that's not a whole lot of people doing, backups. So if you don't have a lot of data, what are some simple options? Get a flash drive. Put your pictures and your documents on the flash drive. Use Dropbox or OneDrive. I mean, you've got a Microsoft subscription to 365. You should be using OneDrive to store your work. So other things that we can do, what are 3 different kinds of backup mechanisms that in Windows today? System image, system restore, and file history. And then the chapter ends with creating a recovery disk. Now, that last topic is one of the most important things that everyone in the class should go ahead and do, okay? So it's kind of like thrown in at the very end. So what are system images? They're a complete clone of your entire hard drive, including all your files, all your apps, and Windows itself. It is the only option that will get you back up and running if your entire hard drive dies or gets stolen. We'll see that you need to get maybe a portable hard drive to go ahead and do this, and it takes a lot of time. System restore. These are snapshots of your copy of Windows as it was when it was last working well. So you can rewind to a snapshot when, for example, a new app or upgrade seem to follow up things. So those are the restore points. Then lastly, we talk about file history. That's for rewinding individual documents to earlier drafts or recovering them from their if they've gotten deleted or damaged. So let's start off with system images. Start off with a little video on system image right here, making a system image. You may want to go ahead and watch it before you perform your task. So here's the question that's posed here. How do you do this? So what you do is you open the backup and restore from your control panel. Yeah, you got to go to the control panel and choose create a system image. Note that you will need to pass UAC to perform this task. So if you're like on a standard account, you'll need to go ahead and be able to have the administrator help you out on this. So the questions that you'll need to answer, or you should answer, is how can you create a system image and how can you restore the image? And the assumption here that you may not get here is that you have to assume your hard drive is dead, okay? Because that's an important thing to take into consideration as to how you build your answer. So I go ahead and open up control panel, backup and restore, and I click on create a system image, and this is what I get on my computer. When you go to the control panel, a lot of people are saying, why does it say backup and restore Windows 7? And everybody that's on the videos, they just say, just forget that. I guess they just never rewrote that, and it's kind of like left over perhaps from the Windows 7 days, and it is in the control panel. So apparently they haven't rewritten this stuff over to the Windows settings. Okay, they may have taken off the control panel from the utilities menu, but it's still important that techies know how to get there and do things that are in the control panel. This is one example. So you go ahead and click on create system image, and you just wait, right? So to restore your system image, we're going to assume that your hard drive is dead. You're going to have to open up some students are not aware that you're going to have to open up the Windows recovery environment. Now, this can be done in two different ways. You know, sometimes you can get there if your hard drive is failing a little bit without having to use a USB stick. But if it's pretty much gone, you'll need to have the Windows recovery environment, you know, on a USB stick. Okay, you go to troubleshooting, advanced options, system image recovery. Okay, select your image from the backup drive, and then click finish, and that puts it all back together again. You know, so why you need the USB is because the USB recovery environment is because if your hard drive is dead, how are you going to be able to go into backup and restore? You won't be able to restore from the program in the control panel, because there is a little, I think there's a little choice there to go ahead and restore. So what happens if your hard drive crashes? Well, you're probably going to lose all your personal files that you have on there that you're not backing up somewhere. If your hard drive crashes, you also lose your operating system. You know, hopefully you have your license number somewhere, right? And all the programs that you've installed on it. Hopefully you've got a record of your program somewhere. All the patches and stuff like that. It takes a long time to restore your PC to this state. Okay, so maybe that's one of the reasons what's keeping people from doing this. So what is a system image? It solves the problem of getting your hard drive contents back after a hard drive crashes. This feature called a complete PC backup in the Windows Vista days. Anybody remember Vista? So many people complained about that. I didn't have problems with it. I think a lot of people have problems with Vista because they were using computers with not enough memory. I remember people were putting Vista on computers with like 512K of memory, not even a gig of memory. So I think that was part of the problem. So it creates a perfect snapshot of your entire hard drive at that particular moment with everything, your documents, your email, your pictures, so on, plus Windows, plus your operating system, plus all your programs and settings. Okay, so someone could steal your entire hard drive, or your hard drive could die, or you know, and you'll be able to install a new empty one and be back up in business. Well, he says in an hour. You may be looking. It depends on how much you have. You know, it could be an hour and a half too. I mean, if you have a lot of stuff, and of course, if you can find a hard drive that you backed it up to, hopefully they didn't take that too. So let's repeat the process here. How do you make the image? You go to the control panel. You click on this backup and restore Windows 7. They didn't even bother to take off the Windows 7, did they? You create your system image. You select where you want to save to. You know, I mean, you may have several, you know, hard drives connected to your computer. Who knows? You know, or portable hard drives. You confirm your drives and your space requirements, and then you click on Start Backup. So then, if something happens, how can you I mean, let's say your hard drive dies, you're going to have to go into the Windows recovery environment. So how do you do this? So if your computer is running, you hold on the Shift key as you hit restart. Okay. To find the restart button, you can also select the Windows key, power. That's restart. If the computer won't even start up, you're going to have to start up from a Windows DVD, flash drive, or system repair disk. At the Windows setup screen, hit Next and then choose Repair Your Computer. Once you see the Choose an Option screen, you're back in familiar territory. You click on Troubleshoot, Advanced Options, and then System Image Recovery. It sounds like a lot of steps. But when you boot up with your USB recovery environment, you know, it kind of makes sense. The menu is it's not that bad. Okay. So you just what you need is just experience with this. So you got to go ahead and create your Windows recovery environment. See USB. Just watch the video. He walks you through how to do it. You know. And if you have an old computer somewhere, you may want to practice using it. You know. So you just walk through the steps until you go ahead and the first thing you're going to do is you're probably going to want to go ahead and try and troubleshoot it first. You know, and if nothing works, then you're going to have to just reformat it, put the system back on it again. Okay. So the system restore, this is a different idea. Here we have another green task. This is where you open the system protection dialog and just do a search for it. And you'll create a restore point. If I read correctly, I think the author of the book said that these restore points are not on by default. So you want to make sure that it's on. Okay. You'll also need UAC to perform this task. So if you're on a standard account like I am, I don't use my administrator account too much. I use the standard account, so whenever I have to do something funny, I have to enter in, you know, UAC or go to or log in as administrator to do stuff, and that's done for security purposes. And it's explained very well in our book as to why everybody should probably be doing that for security purposes. Things are going to get on your computer. It's going to make it harder for someone to get on your computer if you're on a standard account than if you're on an administrator account. Okay. So here you are in the System Protection tab, and the first you're going to create it. Of course, you want to go into Configure first and make sure it's on. Here I can see that protection is on. He said the default was off. Kind of hard to believe they wouldn't want to put this on as a default setting. So, you know, but anyway, go and verify that it's on. Go and create, and then you go into System Restore as the last port to restore everything. So question is posed, how can you create, this is just a summary of all the steps. So you go to the System Protection dialog box, you know, it's in the control panel, and make sure it's on. After you do that, you're going to go ahead and click on the create button. So how can you revert your computer to previous restore point? Go to System Restore Point. And you can also make some manual ones, and we'll talk about this later on, but it makes one, it makes the restore point after a major revision or update. You know, I was looking at mine, and didn't we just have an update in November? So I saw that was listed there. So I could restore to that point because I just didn't have any manual restore points. And this was just a little review. He talks about, the author of the book talks about undo, keyboard shortcut, Control-Z, and the more detailed explanation of what we just went through, circling through all this again. What is System Restore? I like the way the author describes it. It's the mother of all undo commands. How's that for a creative way of explaining things in a techie way? It rewinds your copy of Windows back to the condition it was in before you or something you tried to install messed it up. I usually don't try and do too many strange things anymore like I did in the past, you know. Best of all, System Restore doesn't change your files. Your email, pictures, music, documents, and all other things are left up to date. People are worried about, well, I'm going back to Restore Point. Well, what about my resume that I just made yesterday? It's not going to be affected. Okay. In fact, if you don't like your PC after restoring it, you can always restore it to the way it was before you restored it. How's that? So the author says it comes turned off. You know, I'm still surprised by that. And so go into, you know, click on the configure button and make sure it's on, and then set your restore points. Okay. I don't think you want to count on just waiting for a Windows update restore point. Set a manual. restore point, and when your computer's working really good, just go and create one and say, this is the point in time where I want to go back to. So he walks you through how to go ahead and do a system restore then to that particular point in time. So yeah, you can undo system restore points, right? Then he goes on to talk in the Power User Clinic, system restore. The situation here is, where's all this being stored? Stored in a folder called System Volume Information, for those of you that want to know stuff like that. And then it brings us to file history. Again, green, this is a lab-related topic, and I give you 2 videos on the topic, really great videos. You really should watch them, So, here, in a nutshell, I'm saying, hey, open up the settings page that allows you to back up using file history. And these 2 questions you really need to be able to answer. How can you back up your data files using file history, and how can you recover your files using file history? Okay. So you open Windows settings and then click on Update and Security. So now we're going to the new part of the world, right? We're finished with the control panel, right? So the control panel is not dead. It's a theme that, I don't know why they took it off the utility menu. I guess they just had too many things on there, huh? So we go into the new Windows settings, go into the Update and Security, and in the Backup tab, we get started by clicking on the plus sign. Okay, you may want to check, there's a little menu item here, you can see it here right underneath this big old plus sign, really small. It says more options. So you may want to see the other options, such as folders to include or exclude. Like if you want, let's say there's some stuff there that you don't care about, you can go ahead and exclude those folders. Okay, that's done in more options. It's a small little link right underneath this little plus sign. Okay, so how can you recover the files using file history? So you get back in, and you find your file and click on the restore button. So you do a search for restore files with file history. So your author likes a real quick way to get to places by just searching for things on your taskbar. And this is just a short and sweet answer. I mean, you may have to go through you will need to go through several steps before you can get to the point that you can find your file and restore it by clicking on the little green button, okay, to bring it back from the dead. Or maybe I should have amplified on that a little bit more, but here is the amplification. So first of all, let's go ahead and define what file history is. It's like a time machine for documents. In the same way, System Restore is a time machine for your system software. Really great analogy here. I mean, this guy, I really think he really writes well. He comes up with some really good analogy. Well, for me, it makes sense because I'm thinking, well, I have a Mac experience. So I'm thinking the time machine from the Mac, right? And yeah, needless to say, at home, I use Windows, Mac, and Linux. Can't wait for the new LTS to come out. It'll be coming out pretty soon. I'm going to be installing that, very soon. But getting back on topic, let's set up the file history. File history feature it has its own dashboard. You're going to go into the Windows key, settings, update, security, backup. Okay, so we're there. So we go into the more options. We verify the files. Some people go in. I mean, there's some fine tuning that you can do here. You can say back up which files, when you can specify when. The time period and all that kind of stuff. So you can there's quite a few little options that you can choose inside of more options. Okay. So unless you start meddling, and he means, like choosing stuff, Windows is just going to go ahead and back up the entire personal folder, because you're wondering, what does this include? I know I said documents, but I meant to be more specific. In your account folder, you have documents, photos, music, videos, settings, and so on. All right. You can add or delete. Let's say you created a My Documents folder off the root directory to the C drive because that's where you wanted to put your stuff. Well, you can add that. It's not going to back up your documents there unless you add that folder. Okay. You can also exclude folders. All right. So to recover, you know, do a little search for restore your files. You end up opening it up in the old control panel. And then there's 4 different ways of finding your file. It sounded a little complicated, but again, here, this is one of those situations where experience simplifies things. You have to look for your file, and you can either browse for it, ribbon rewinding, searching for the file, properties. Once you find your file, you select it and click restore. Okay, so then Windows cheerfully recovers the old version of the file, you know. And now we go into the last topic. You should have put this topic in the title, because to me it is a separate topic. Creating the USB recovery drive. Like I said, this is one of those things that I think everybody should do in this class. Besides creating the Windows Media, using the Windows Media Creation tool that's described in Appendix A. I don't think that you can say you earned your A in this class unless you've done those 2 things and have experience with those 2 things using, yeah, I just said it right. You really need to verify that you really got an A in this class by understanding the USB recovery drive and the Windows Media Creation tool that's described in Appendix A. Okay? So watch these 2 videos. The author says that the record image file is no longer functional in Windows 10, and that's true. It worked. It was something that was in Windows 8. What is that? It's a command line way of creating a recovery disk. So I don't even know why he mentioned it, but if you click on this little link on here, it verifies the fact that, hey, this was a command line way of creating the recovery disk. It was available in Windows 8, and it's not available in Windows 10. Like, everybody's going to be going to the command line, right? You're going to find out that it's still important to know how to do stuff like that. So if you're wondering what this means, to me, it means record image, right? Or recovery image. See, recovery image. So what is the USB recover drive? It's a bunch of emergency tools, and it has, to me, a lot of overlap with the Windows Media Creation tool. Okay. So it has emergency tools that you can use when things are not working out right. Okay. So you can get to it if things are not too far gone on your computer. Okay, because it's in a partition on your computer. But let's say your hard drive is really trashed and you can't get to it at all. You're going to need a USB flash drive to reinstall stuff again and do some troubleshooting, restoring your files, and yes, even reinstalling Windows from here. Okay, hopefully you have your key somewhere, right? By the way, there are programs on the internet that can recover your key in case you've forgotten it or don't have a record of it. So how do you create this? Again, just go to the search bar on the taskbar and do a search for create a recovery drive and just walk through the steps that are listed on here, and you end up, it takes about an hour and a half, you know, to go ahead. This was my experience. You know, you select your flash drive, and he says right away that you need 16. You know, I think, you know, I wonder why it's more than the Windows recovery thing. I think was the Windows Media Creation tool. I think was only 8, but this one's 16. Probably has more troubleshooting tools in here. And then it gives you one last warning here that everything on your USB flash drive is going to be destroyed, right, or reformatted. So that's what this exclamation point is pretty much telling you. So when you click on create, you have your stick ready to use. So how do you use it? You put it in the computer, turn it off, turn it on again, and you may need to modify the boot sequence. And that may, you know, every computer that I've had, you know, when you turn it on, it pretty much tells you how to get into BIOS or how to change, how to modify the boot sequence. You basically want, not all computers are set to boot from the USB. So what ends up happening here is that once some beginners is you end up with this USB stick, you put it on the computer and you turn it on, and it ends up going back to your blue error screen, or your operating system tries to load again. So it's not hitting the USB stick. So you'll need to investigate that personally. And even the author of the book and everybody else said it's what you end up doing is going to be different depending upon the manufacturer of your computer. So that, my friends, is the end of this chapter. Again, I invite you to watch the videos. The videos that I chose on here, they're excellent training tools. And other than that, I want to thank you very much. And don't be one of those 4% going back up. You know, the simple solution, really, as he said, right away, just get a flash drive, put your stuff on Dropbox or OneDrive, you know, so at least you can have a copy of your stuff. Other than that, Professor Benavides, peace out.